Hey friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the channel. So we're coming up to a new year and we're going to talk about AEW on this video. And I have nothing planned whatsoever. I just saw a lot of the stuff that went down on Dynamite. I didn't watch it from beginning to end, but I did watch the main event where MJF lost his Ring of Honor tag titles to a couple of masked henchmen for the AEW Devil. Now, we'll start there because sometimes it's good to get rid of the bad stuff and then see the light of something, of the new year in this case with AEW, because I honestly think, and maybe it's just me hoping, because I want people to do well. I want people to succeed. I want to enjoy what I'm watching on my television. And so we're going to start with sort of the bad and get that out of the way. And then we're going to talk about the good and why I think AEW might have a rebound 2024. It's really the last couple months especially has been sort of a tale of two AEWs. And they can be sort of symbolized with very concrete examples. You saw them on the thumbnail, right? And I'm talking about, of course, the Continental Classic Finals with Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. And we're going to talk about the Continental Classic in a second. And, of course, on the other side, the masked men, the Devil's Henchmen, winning the Ring of Honor championships, tag championships from MJF, the very symbol of his friendship with Adam Cole. Now, I've been very open on the channel about who I think the Devil is. I personally think it's Adam Cole. And if Tony Khan's media brief comments are to be believed from today, he basically said that he sees the Devil storyline wrapping up. I'll be honest with you, he didn't seem, when you compare the two things, he seemed very high in the Continental Classic and not so much on the Devil stuff. And look, I'm the first person to admit when I'm wrong about something. I have no problem doing that. I'm not one of those people who says, yeah, I'm right about everything. When I look at the early days of the Devil storyline, I was like, okay, I like a good masked attacker storyline. I like when there's some sort of, I don't know, WWE-ish sports entertainment stuff injected into my pro wrestling. I'm down with that. And as long as I've tried to defend the Devil storyline, it's just not, it just doesn't, it's petering out, man. And you go back and you think about it, and it's like, have any masked attacker storylines across, not even in pro wrestling alone, but like whenever this has been done, like on cheesy TV shows, does it ever really work? I don't think so. Maybe you guys can leave me some comments below with examples of masked attackers or mystery villains that have actually worked. This one isn't, and I still do believe that some of it has to do with Adam Cole's injury. Look, guys, it's plainly obvious that the Devil is Adam Cole. And the guys that won the Ring of Honor tag titles are probably the Kingdom, and Roderick Strong is probably like the fourth member of that crew. It's probably Cole, the Kingdom, and Roderick Strong. And then Wardlow. Wardlow has been obvious from day one. In fact, even in his vignettes, he talks about the Devil this, the Devil that. Like, it's clear that he is. This has got to be like a five-man deal. You got Roderick Strong, the Kingdom, Wardlow, and then you got Adam Cole sort of being the ringleader. But they did this thing last night where Samoa Joe turned on MJF after doing business with the Devil. And it's honestly, it's grown worthy at this point. It's really cheesy. It's the kind of stuff that if you give two thoughts about it, you could see it happening a mile away. And it's just not good. I've always said I like my stories in pro wrestling, but the story can't be everything. At some point, you need actual wrestling in your pro wrestling. And like I said, I do think that the Adam Cole injury probably changed things up with the Devil. But the bottom line is, if you got people in there wrestling with masked men that aren't actual luchadors or like cool spooky characters like the Fiend or whatever, it's just not going to work. Masked henchmen shouldn't be putting their feet up on ropes in order to get a leverage pin on MJF. It's just way too silly. it's like embarrassing to watch type silly. It's like, I'm going to watch this at midnight when the wife is in bed because I don't want her to see that I'm watching this hokey shit type embarrassing. It's not good. But I get the feeling that we're not going to be seeing much more of that kind of bullshit in the future with AEW. I think Tony Khan, from what I read about his media comments today, kind of understands this isn't really the direction for us because you have something tangible that has been running concurrently with the Continental Classic that has been a success. I've not seen many complaints. I have seen some suggestions, complaints, whatever, some debate over who should be winning the whole damn thing. But that's like healthy, creative debate. That's not stuff that's literally just causing people to rage over AEW, saying, look at this WWE light bullshit. So when you look at the Continental Classic, right, it's the perfect mix of stories and pro wrestling that feed off each other. And any round robin tournament like this, you always have the guys that you know are going to be eating the pins, the guys that are going to be eating the losses, the people who down the line are going to be trying to play spoiler, or at the very least just try not to leave the tournament with a big donut like Jay Lethal did this tournament, which I have no doubt is going to be turned into a story for him, probably on Ring of Honor. But, I mean, yeah, that's what they should do, the Continental Classic. The winner gets a guaranteed title shot. The loser gets relegated to Ring of Honor or something like that. I don't know. But it does seem like, according to Tony Khan anyways, that he believes the metrics seem to favor the Continental Classic. People are interested in it, and it seems to be a ratings driver. Now, when you actually look at the quarter hours, I don't know, what he's looking at. I don't know if that's true or not. But, hey, you know what my philosophy would be? Just put out stuff that you think is good, put some effort into it, like the booking of the Continental Classic, and eventually people will be into it. It's not like as soon as the Attitude Era happened in WWF, ratings immediately turned on. No, it actually took a while. If the Attitude Era, you want to say, started, let's say, for example, the Attitude Era started mid-97, right? I mean, I know Austin 316 was in 96, but let's say the lead up to Survivor Series, because, Survivor Series 97 is when a lot of people thought was an inflection point there, late 97, but I know DX preceded that, et cetera, whatever. So let's say like around mid-97. It wasn't until Austin won the title that WWF started to beat WCW in the ratings, and even then WCW would come back and beat them, et cetera, et cetera. It's a whole process. You have to put out stuff that's good, that's buzzworthy before you start seeing the fruits of your labor, and that takes time. You need consistency, and you need to build buzz over time, and I think that's what the Continental Classic has done. Now, I don't know what more they could do, what other ideas they can come up with that would sort of similarly, thematically, spiritually be similar to what the Continental Classic has provided, but it's pro wrestling. They got a bunch of good minds over there giving Tony Khan ideas. I'm hoping that they come up with something that feeds pro wrestling into storylines and doesn't rely on silliness backstage where people are being attacked backstage and who done it, and you got, a broken beer bottle, so it must be Hangman Adam Page. And so if Tony Khan recognizes that the Continental Classic is the kind of blend of pro wrestling and stories, that might be what he wants AEW to do. It might be that the Continental Classic is going to be the thing that ignites AEW into finding this abstract identity that people believe it needs to find. I think that there's other aspects of their presentation that they need to address as well. And they still need to focus on, which I think they kind of did in the Continental Classic a little bit. Jay White had a good showing. Swerve Strickland had a really good showing. Of course, we end up with Mox and Eddie Kingston, two 40-year-olds. But I kind of like the idea that Eddie Kingston put it all on the line, and now he's going to get it back in the finals there at World's End against Moxley. And of course, they've got a ton of history as well. I think I don't know. I'm actually really happy with the outcome of the Continental Classic with the final matchup here. I think Eddie Kingston's probably going to end up beating John Moxley. I think, you know, for years I was saying, man, they need to push Eddie Kingston to the moon. This guy has got the crowd, you know, in the palm of his hand. He's the best talker there is in the company. It's like him and Samoa Joe. And the idea that he could win this whole thing, which has been a big success seemingly for AEW, I think that's great. The other thing that I just saw on Twitter and realized, like, oh my God, that's totally true, is that nobody from the Elite are going to be at the next All Elite Wrestling pay-per-view. So far, there are no matches scheduled that feature the Elite. Now, some of this is simply timing, right? The Young Bucks, they're off TV seemingly or apparently, allegedly, reportedly, to get sort of a refresh. They're going to come back as heels in a prominent role. We'll see if that happens. Kenny Omega obviously had scheduled a match for World's End with the Golden Jets, but he got diverticulitis. Nothing you could do about that. So it's a bit on the happenstance side, and I don't know what they're doing with Hangman Adam Page. He probably should have a match, but whatever. Maybe they're going to do a Battle Royal. I don't know. But it is kind of interesting that we see just how far AEW, if you go back, this is an interesting thing to do. If you go back and you look at AEW's YouTube channel from like the first, 6 months of AEW, and you see just how much AEW has changed since then, it's really quite striking. AEW really was just like the Elite and their friends, and then they've gotten really far away from that to the point where you can have a card without the Elite anywhere near it. In fact, if the Elite disappeared completely, AEW, they wouldn't miss a beat at this point. A lot has changed over the past 4 to 5 years. A ton has changed over the, well, it's been just over 4 years now, I guess. A lot has changed. That company would not miss a beat. Now, I'm curious to see if AEW is going to keep on moving away from the Elite, keep on moving more towards stuff like the Continental Classic in 2024. If they do that, and if they start rolling with their younger guys, with the Jay Whites, the Swerves, the Will Hobbs, the Ricky Starks, the Roosh, those type guys who clearly have found a way to capture a certain amount of buzz amongst the AEW fans, if they go strong on those names in a similar way to back in 1997 when Triple H wasn't a huge name, Rocky Maivia wasn't a huge name, and Steve Austin wasn't a huge name in early 97 anyways, he was still building up his brand. If you look at his entrance in the 1997 Royal Rumble, the Rumble that he won, when his music hits, it's not like everybody goes, oh my God, this is great, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. No, it took him time to build that. It wasn't really till WrestleMania of that year that he picked up a ton of steam. So you got to start somewhere. And AEW right now is in a position where, yeah, they are getting hit a lot because their product is inconsistent. And I feel in order to sort of get over that hump, they're going to need to focus on more things like the Continental Classic and focus on building up their youth. Guys like the Acclaim, Swerve, even Hangman. I know he's part of the Elite, but you can throw Hangman in there, Jay White, and of course MJF, who I think is probably already re-signed with the company. Probably did it when he came back last time. So yeah. Anyways, there's a little rant for you. Where do you guys see AEW going in 2024? Keep it civil. Honestly, like the worst thing in the world are disingenuous arguments. Drop some civil discussion in the comments below, or fucking be toxic. What do I care? Anyways, look at that stretch back there. Look at that. What is she doing over there? Anyways, we'll see you guys around.